understanding the anatomy of a crochet hook will help you to choose which crochet hook is going to work best for which project, and it will also help you create more even and nicer looking stitches. So at the very top of the crochet hook, we have the point, and the point is the part that includes the actual hook and the very tip of the hook. The very tip of the hook is sometimes really pointy, hence point, and it's sometimes a little rounded or dull. I like a crochet hook that has a little bit of a point to it, but not too much. If it has too much of a point, it might split your yarn. So if your yarn has a couple threads wrapped together, it might actually go in between those threads wrapped together, those different plies of yarn, as opposed to just going in between the stitches. Now, if it doesn't have enough of a point, sometimes it's hard to get your hook into a tighter stitch. Underneath the point, we have what's called the throat. And you can see that that's where, right where the hook happens, of course, the crochet hook has to be thinner, right? And so that's the section that flares back out to the gauged section of the crochet hook. And that throat is kind of where you catch your stitches. If it's really too short, you might have a hard time catching your stitches, and if it's too long, it might affect the length of your shaft, which can also be a problem. So next, we have the shaft. And the shaft is the section of your hook that is actually gauged. So if you have a 4.0 millimeter crochet hook, then that means the circumference of that shaft should be 4.0 millimeters. Now, when you get into crochet hooks that have fancy handles or ergonomic, or even if the thumb rest is too high or the throat is too long, those sorts of things can affect the length of your shaft. Your shaft needs to be long enough so that when you're making your stitches, whatever stitches are on your hook, however many loops are on your hook, need to be on that shaft section in order to get the proper gauge. So if your shaft is too small and you are making a stitch that has quite a few loops on it at one point, it could mean you don't have enough room to make that stitch. Next, we have our thumb rest, and the thumb rest is exactly that. It's where you put your thumb. When I was first taught to crochet, I was taught to pinch that thumb rest in between my thumb and my middle finger. People don't always crochet that way so much anymore. You do what's comfortable for you. Some hooks don't even have thumb rests. So the thumb rest is only important if it is important to how you personally crochet. And then the very bottom part of your crochet hook, everything below the thumb rest, is called the handle. And that is basically what you are mainly holding in your hand. And that is the part that can be all sorts of fancy and ergonomic and just whatever. Sometimes they have little charms hanging off the end of them. Just people get all sorts of fancy and fun with those handles sometimes, but you don't have to. If a hook that looks like the hook in these images is what makes you happy, then by all means use one like that. You decide what's best for you. Hopefully all that information will help you choose the right hook for your project.